Wow, it's so nice.
Very, very nice.
It's when it starts to look finished, right? It's so exciting to be seeing the new building. We've been waiting 10 years for this, and it makes it all feel real that we will be moving into the state-of-the-art research facilities, which will accelerate our research to bring new treatments to people with neurological diseases.
3, 2, 1, break ground.
This is a partnership between patients, scientists and clinicians to really develop treatments for neurological disease.
The new building is needed because at the moment a lot of our work is in different locations. This will bring together one of the world's largest concentrations of expertise in the science of the brain.
We're going to have incredible technology in this new building, probably the best in the world. There's going to be clinicians, clinical academics, doctors, there's going to be scientists in the laboratory, and there's going to be patients coming into the building. And so they'll be working in partnership to understand the causes of these diseases like dementia and to work out how we might treat them and then to involve patients in that treatment.
This is a very ambitious project, highly innovative and unique in its scope and scale.
It's really difficult to combine researchers with clinicians, with patients, with industry, and I think we can do that on this site. Most other centres worldwide are strong in one area or on the other, so the real strength here is collaboration.
I've come across many wonderful young researchers who have never met a patient with the disease that they're trying to cure. Well, this building will change that, and I think it'll be very, very inspiring.
Something that I think is really important that this building will provide is the opportunity for us to attract the very best scientists and leaders in the world.
We're on the edge of making major discoveries that can really make a difference in patients who've got these debilitating diseases.
It's a really beautiful shape, impressive, very, very impressive.
The core technology are at the heart of the transformation in the way of working that we wanted to bring to this building. We will have finally, after several years, a true home. So I think it would be a center for discovery and culture, transforming the life of scientists and patients for the benefit of our society.
This building really carries the spirit, the sort of DNA of UCL. It aims to be the best in the world, and pretty soon we'll have the critical mass to really make us globally leading in the whole area of neuroscience and neurodegenerative disease.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome everyone in the room, and welcome everybody who's live streaming, watching this presentation. My name's Mike Hanna. It's my privilege to be the director of the Institute of Neurology, and perhaps the most important thing I have to tell you today is if there's an alarm, it's for real, and you have to leave the room. We're not planning any test alarms. So thank you so much for joining us today for this really important milestone, celebrating reaching the highest point of this new construction for our new Translational Research Centre building. It is a historic moment. We've been working on this for about 12 years, and so it's really fantastic to see this actually now just a year or so away. And when it's complete, together with Queen Square and the hospital, which is a short walk away, we're going to create what I think is going to be one of the world's best translational research environments, designed to undertake fundamental science to understand the mechanisms of brain diseases, and then have steps to translate this into treatments for patients. Because, of course, dementia and neurological diseases are some of the world's and society's most significant health burdens for families, patients, as well as a huge societal challenge. And so we're really trying to create an environment to try and really address that important challenge. And I firmly believe, having worked on this for many years, that this will be a transformational new environment to do this. The project is, of course, a major partnership between many different partners. This includes UCLH colleagues in the National Hospital for Neurology, UCL and UCL Institute of Neurology, and of course the UK DRI is a key partner. There are of course many other partners that have contributed to this, which include donors, charities, patients and patient organizations, which are crucial. Today, we're going to hear a few speeches from the partners here in the lecture theatre. Then a small group will put on hard hats and high visibility jackets and make their way up to the very top of the building for a topping out ceremony, which I think will be live streamed, hopefully, to you in this room. During the time that they're going up to the top, there's going to be a panel discussion to consider in more detail with some colleagues and experts what this new environment will really do and what the real challenges are for translational neuroscience. But before we continue and hear from colleagues, we have, I think, a short video which is to describe to you what topping out is really all about. Our construction partner, ISG, have created a video to tell you more about this.
A topping out ceremony is the landmark milestone for any project. When construction reaches its highest point in the building structure, often recognised with the last beam, bolt, pour of concrete or its equivalent.
It is commonplace in the UK, but there are various accounts historically of how it first started.
Some accounts detail a sprinkling of salt, oil, wine and corn as an offering to the building. This is a process that dates back 5,000 years ago to the Persians.
In America, its popularity stemmed from the Native American belief that no building should ever be taller than a tree, and by erecting one on top of the building, it meant the tree was always taller.
In 14th century England, topping out ceremonies were marked by placing a yew tree branch on top of the building. This was to ward off evil spirits from entering. This was documented in writings by the poet Geoffrey Chaucer.
It wasn't always a tree that marked topping out, it can be a personal flag or a weather vane.
Nowadays, we tend to see it as a celebration of the work that the teams and partners have put towards this key milestone, often including presentations, speeches, or an activity to mark the occasion. We also try to look forward at the completion of the project and how it will positively impact the community and beyond, whether it be a world-class research environment, school, workplace, or battery manufacturing facility.
So now I'm just going to move on to introduce a number of colleagues to tell you a bit about what they've been doing and their perspective on things. So the first person I'm delighted to introduce is Professor Selina Ray. She's the Deputy Director of the Institute of Neurology. She's been key leading a number of areas in the project. She's an internationally leading stem cell scientist, and she's also going to lead the panel discussion a bit later on. So I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Mike. I'll try and not fall off the stage afterwards. So it's a pleasure to be here today, and I just wanted to extend my welcome to you all on this really exciting day. As Mike said, my role today will be really to look after you all when the roof party makes its way to do the topping out ceremony. And hopefully we will flawlessly cut to the live stream, which I've heard is the biggest live stream event since Saturday, since the coronation, if not bigger. And I'm really excited to chair the panel with you later. We will be joined by a group of colleagues from across the Institute and our partners from UCLH and the DRI. And we'll really discuss in more detail how this building will accelerate our research and help us move more quickly towards our mission of patient benefit. And as Mike said, we've got a number of labs here today with stands outside. Please do take the time to go and meet some of the researchers who are really at the coalface, if you like, doing the work. My own lab is here showcasing some of our stem cell models, so feel free to go and grill them outside. And so I look forward to chatting more with you all later. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks a lot, Selina. So I'm now really pleased to introduce Dr. Adrian Ivinson, the Chief Operating Officer of the UK Dementia Research Institute.
Thanks very much, Mike. So the Dementia Research Institute is a national institute devoted to understanding the root causes of dementia and thinking about how we prevent it. We are 800 plus researchers around the country, but we are privileged and delighted to be headquartered here at UCL with the largest of the research groups here, headed up by my colleague, Professor Karen Duff, who's here with us today as well. We will be moving into this building. The building's going to give us at least three things. It's going to give us the right environment to do complicated research. Some of you have heard me say before that the human brain is probably the most complex thing in the known universe. It's wonderful in that complexity. It gives us compassion and intellect and imagination and creativity. But when it goes wrong, that complexity is very difficult to understand. It takes an awful lot of complicated advanced technology to understand how the brain works. And that technology has to be in the right environment. And that this building is the right environment. As Michael said, this will be, when it opens next year, the most sophisticated neuroscience building in the world, at least for a while. And that is just fantastic. The second thing the building will give us is collaboration. We know that science these days, because of that complexity, it's not a solo act. It's not individuals working quietly on their own. It's a collective. So the building will bring us all together to collaborate within the building, collaborate with the physicians that will be sharing the building, and engaging with patients. We've got to keep in mind that the reason that we come to work every day is not some esoteric reason. It's because we have patients that need our help. And those patients coming into this building will remind us of that and engage with us and give us the context for that research. And the final thing the building will do is it'll give us hope. When a community decides to do something as significant as this building, it's a real statement. It's a statement of not just leadership and vision, but it's a statement of optimism that we will achieve things. And I hope that the incredible excitement and hope that this building gives the research community, I hope it also gives that to a patient community and the broader society. So with that, I'll end by saying thank you. Thank you to Michael and UCL for having that leadership to do this, to think about this 10 years ago and to actually bring it about. And thank you to Alan and Mike and all the others who have just day in, day out worked so hard to make this work. Thank you to all the construction people who it's fantastic. It's just amazing. And thank you to the broader community that's come together. You've given us the resources and the funding. Obviously, we can't do this without you. You're inspiring us, and we're very grateful.
Great, thanks, Adrian. So I'm really pleased now to invite David Probert, Sylvia Etterberg, outpatient sister from the National Hospital, and Lisa Strikachok, one of the radiography managers. I should mention that David Probert, in case you don't know, is the chief executive of UCLH. David.
I was a bit worried looking at that step whether I would make it, but I'm pretty pleased. Good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to join you here and to be joined by Lisa and Sylvia as well. And the reason I'm so delighted is, firstly, it's been mentioned a number of times, the importance of partnership. And today is an absolute example of the fantastic partnership we have between UCLH and UCL. No better example probably than in our relationship in neurosciences, although there's many, many great relationships. To be partnered something so exciting is hugely remarkable and hugely significant for our hospital. So I wanted to stand on stage and take the opportunity to say that this is something that means a huge amount to our organization. I want to pay credit to my colleagues in the audience who have worked in partnership with colleagues at UCL, with the DRI and beyond to make sure that this will be a tremendous success, and a big thanks to you. The building that's coming out of the ground, of course, is around science, but as has already been described, it's also around medicine. We'll be able to provide care to much needed patients in the most modern, as I was describing earlier, or hearing from Tarek earlier, the most modern MRI facilities available in the world. We'll have one of the most modern outpatient facilities available in the world for much needed patients, which my colleagues will be involved in running. So we are hugely excited, particularly in a time where there is a little growth at the moment, little big investment in large scale schemes making significant difference. This is fantastic. Finally, I just want to say the reason I'm so delighted that Lisa and Sylvia are here is because whilst the buildings are fantastic, and what a day to celebrate buildings, and we're going to see more and more of it, this will be a success because of people. And that's why it's wonderful to have all of you in this room today from all the organizations working in partnership, because the success will be driven by the people. But what a building to enable change. Thank you all.
Many thanks. I'm now really pleased to introduce Professor Alan Thompson, the sponsor of the program, and in case anyone didn't know, the Dean of the Faculty of Brain Sciences.
Step is treacherous, yeah, and it gets more challenging. Welcome, and it's wonderful to welcome you all here. This is just an extraordinary day, and the vision for this building, as Mike has said, was simply that it would be the best in the world. One needs to be ambitious and really drive treatments for patients. And I'm not going to talk too much on the research side, because that's been covered under the partnership, which David has mentioned. But this isn't only about research. Of course, it's also about education. This is going to be a wonderful location for our students, particularly postgraduate, really enabling for them. And of course, it's also about our global neuroscience community. Both the Institute and the DRI have extraordinary networks across this country, but also globally. And those networks will be key in raising our profile, attracting the very best people into neuroscience, which is essential as we move forward. But I really wanted, and Mike has mentioned this earlier, and so I've got a piece of paper because I tend to forget things. I really wanted to focus on philanthropy and on the extraordinary number of people who have supported this development and have really made it what it is. Without our donors, we wouldn't have this building, and we certainly wouldn't have the equipment to make it work. This is truly a future focus building as a result of their input. And I want to talk about our founding patrons, and these include the Wolfson Foundation, the Garfield Weston Foundation, our alumnus Kathy Lee and her husband Martin, the charities the National Brain Appeal and Brain Research UK. Huge thanks to Iceland Foods Charitable Foundation and the UCL Dementia Retail Partnership, spearheaded by Sir Malcolm Walker. And of course, we've also had legacy donors and numerous individuals who share our vision for a world free from neurological diseases. And we're delighted that some of you, not all, but some, are able to join us here today. I'd also like, of course, to thank the founding funders. These are the donors who provided the initial funding required to launch the national DRI network, and of which UCL is the hub. And that's, of course, the Medical Research Council, looking at Rob, along with Alzheimer's Society and Alzheimer's Research UK. I should also mention our neighbours who have been so tolerant during all of this work. It's been quite challenging for them, and particularly perhaps the Culthorpe Gardens, who are adjoin the site and work so well with us. And I think this whole development is going to benefit them as well as ourselves. And finally, I'd like to thank the home team. So without them, this project would never have reached the point it's got. And it's been really, Mike said 12 years. It feels a little longer, but I guess that's probably accurate. So Martin Tracy and the estates team, Martin's here, our construction partners, ISG, and their subcontractors. And of course, Mike, Jippy, Selena Ray, Helen Crutzel, along with members of the Strategic Delivery Group. Our colleagues we've mentioned earlier, both at DRI and UCLH, our program manager, David Howard, who unfortunately can't be here, and our transformation team, which includes Anna Dubowski, who of course was responsible for today's event, and Sam Wilkinson, who heads up UCL's public art. And so many of the UCL teams who have enabled and supported this project over many, many years: OVPA, finance, procurement, and safety services. I'm sure they are all, as I am, absolutely delighted that we have reached this momentous occasion. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alan. I thought I'd make the steps available. So now I'm really delighted and honoured to welcome Victor Chu, UCL Chair of Council, who's here with us today to say a few words, which is really fantastic.
Good morning, colleagues and friends. I'd like to congratulate all the stakeholders and partners for making today's milestone possible. Major global problems of today and tomorrow can only have any chance of being dealt with through collaboration and partnership, as my colleagues have mentioned. It's all about people. We have different stakeholders who contributed to this success, and we are also able to retain and recruit the best talent to make sure that we'll continue success locally, regionally, and internationally. This is also a really fine example of where collaboration and partnership really excels UK's research and excellence in implementation as well. And I want to say that Adrian mentioned hope, and I think David mentioned ambitions. We should continue to work hard to follow the vision, the hope, and the ambition that we've hitherto contributed with confidence, with hope, with humility, so that we can continue to make a contribution to humanity. So many congratulations, Michael and your team, and thank you for everybody's support. Thank you.
Many thanks. And now I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Michael Spence, Provost and President of UCL, to speak.
I'll get a microphone.
I think okay.
So thank you very much for joining us today. Selena talked about coronation on Saturday, and Mike earlier said that this was a historic occasion. And on Saturday, as I was watching the coronation, everybody kept saying, this is a historic moment. And part of you sort of thought, well, what makes it a historic moment? It's another guy on a stamp, right? To really be historic, it has to be the one who loses his head, or the one who has 8 wives, or the one who comes from Holland bringing democracy. And in some ways, that's true today, right? This is a remarkable research building. We have a whole lot of remarkable research building. That's a wonderful thing. But there has to be something else to be truly historic. There has to be something else to make me say to my grandchildren, I was there when. And I think that is here now. And the something else is this. We are at a particular point in the history of the investigation of the neurological disorders. We have computing capacity and artificial intelligence capacity of a kind we've never had before. We have an understanding of the epigenetics of disease of a kind that we have never had before. We've recently seen the release from work here at UCL of the first drug to slow the progress of dementia, of particular kinds of dementia. And we are at a point at which we're working with partners, particularly in the health system, who really get the importance of the interaction between the clinical and research. We have the right people at the right time with the right supporters in the right moment in the history of the investigation of these diseases. And now we have the right facilities in which to do them, and the right facilities with which to bring people from all around the world. To UCL, that is already first in the world for everything above the shoulders. This is not just a great research building, this is a truly historic moment. And I will be proud to be able to say, when my children say they could do nothing about dementia back then, I will be truly proud to be able to say, I was there on this day. Thank you for sharing that vision, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Michael. So I'm now going to hand over to Selina for the panel discussion, if the panel want to come up on stage. Great. Well done.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Michael. Hopefully no one loses their head in the next 30 minutes that I'm in charge. So we'll shortly start the panel, and thank you to everyone for coming up to take their seats who's a member of that panel. But before we do so, one of the other aspects of this development is we've got a fantastic arts programme alongside the science development. And before we start the panel, we are just going to watch a short video about that arts programme. And afterwards, please, when you go to look around the science fair, please do also visit the artist studios, see the ongoing work and chat to the fantastic artists who are here today. Thank you.
I'm Sam Wilkinson. I'm Head of Public Art for UCL and the Curator and Programme Lead for the IoN-DRI Art Programme. It's a really important programme for UCL. We have a commitment to how artists can work with our academics and our students and our professional services teams to reflect who we are as an institution and, very importantly, talk about our research. And obviously this is a critical building for us in terms of future research around dementia and neurodegenerative diseases.
I'm Annie Cattrall and I'm the lead artist making 2 public art commissions. My first commission, which is called Everything is Connected, will be on the side of the new building, which is just slightly behind the face on Gray's Inn Road. And it's going to wrap around the corner of the building, so it's at an angle. It's based on ideas of looking at dendritic growth formation, so neurological imaging. So Everything is Connected will be gilded with 24-karat gold. It will allow any kind of sunlight or an artificial light to be reflected and absorbed, so it'll sort of change through the day.
I'm Freya and I am working on 3 projects. Laertes Atlas is going to be 12 stained glass windows that will be found around the building. They are going to be lit with meteorological data taken from different places around the world for the 12 months of the year. So they'll each represent a month in the year and they will kind of wake up to a dawn and a dusk.
I was brought in to demystify the lab. The final outcome is going to be an artist book, and that will document all of the events we've had, which include 3 podcasts, a live performance, a talk, and we've got a sound installation coming up.
The second public artwork that I'm making is called Mirror. It will be on the ceiling of the entrance area from Gray's Inn Road, which is part of the old Royal Free Hospital archway. So when people come through the entrance area, a mirror will be on the ceiling. My hope is that they will kind of realise how important and significant the space is, and the artwork will reflect that threshold.
My work is developed through colour relationships, pigment and dyes, and the work I intend to make at Gray's Inn Road is a combination of bringing together the colours that have been used and the dyes and stains by the scientists to make an installation wall painting that runs through the building.
So the second work is called Furtive Ground, and for that I was really interested in seeing kind of the material correlations between the human brain and the site that we're on. And so I worked with a neurologist to kind of go through the soil reports and find elements that would be found in our brains and also on the site. And we kind of really took to 2, which was calcium and magnetite. I asked the 2 construction workers to go to the bottom of the excavation of the building, and they took 2 clods of soil, and then we've actually cast one of them from the chalk from beneath the ground and one of them in magnetite, and that's going to be suspended through the building and will always find magnetic north. So anytime you're in the building, the building in a sense becomes a compass.
The Arbor programme is a knowledge exchange programme where artists, academics, patients and carers all work together to explore areas of research together.
Where my research focuses on familial Alzheimer's disease, we're going to be developing creative workshops where they can come together and share their stories, experiences, and really share with us the things that are important to them, the meaningful milestones in the FAD journey, whilst engaging in artistic activities.
And we're interested in 2 main things. One is the roles that families take when they're faced with dealing with this disease, and the way we want to help families explore that and teach us about their experiences of that is through using collage.
We're working on a project that's exploring the phenomenon of memory and forgetting, looking at that in different ways, including how it's assessed in a clinical setting and also how people think about their own memories.
So the project will look at ways of using drawing and diagrams to try and capture how our memory works, especially in relation to its opposite, forgetfulness.
We're doing a project called Ebb and Flow. I'm working in collaboration with two researchers, Mara and Tatiana, on a project exploring doing a knowledge exchange between artists, researchers and people with a lived experience of dementia or their carers, sort of exploring uncertainty and the role that uncertainty plays in those different kind of contexts.
So this is a very exciting opportunity for a researcher to be part in this project, because it gets me out of the laboratory and connects with the real experience that is going out there.
I'm working with Tom Miller, who's a Wellcome-funded clinician scientist. Our project's called In Search of Lost Time, and we're going to be working with Tom's patients to try to help them to remember various incidents from their past using storytelling, moving and still image. We're interacting with the patients by going on a walk with them to a place that's familiar to them, where they have a history, talking to them about that history, and then working on recalling some of the details of that day at subsequent dates.
So it's my pleasure now for the next 25 minutes or so to host this panel discussion, or let's say conversation.
Thanks, Lena. Hi, everyone. I'm Fiona Ducotter. I'm the Chief Scientific Officer of the Alzheimer's Research UK. I'm going to tell you more on the panel today about why I was really drawn to this magical place to do real drug discovery and translate ideas from patients into treatments. So looking forward to the discussion.
I'm Fergus Ruggan, a neurologist in the epilepsy group at Queen Square and clinical director for neurology at Queen Square, and delighted really to join our partners at UCLH, our valued and esteemed colleagues, in really working together, I think, in this sort of symbiotic and synergistic partnership, I think, for the benefit of our patients.
Over here. So you've got clear line of sight to,
Hello to everybody. I'm GP Shavo. I'm a cellular neurobiologist here at the Institute, and I'm serving as a Deputy Director Strategy for the IoN. I'm also a UK DRI PI, and somehow I'm representing both groups on this panel.
Hello, I'm Nicole Birza, and I'm a Senior Research Fellow at the Institute of Neurology. I work on motor neuron disease, and I'm also a cellular biologist and represent, I think, the early career scientists in the building.
Thank you. And I've said hello, Adrian Ivinson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and Co-Director of the DRI.
Thank you. So I wanted to open really just with a little discussion about why the building is so important and what difference will it make to your day-to-day research? How will it facilitate things to kind of happen in a much more efficient way? And I thought I might ask you, Nicole, to chip in on that first of all, because I think of all of us, you know what it's like to work in the labs in our other building, and you probably are one of the most desperate people to get in here. So I will hand over to you.
Thanks, Selena. Well, I think is what's been highlighted before. I think how collaborative and open space this building will be. I think my science has always benefited from talking to people, interacting with people. All of that has always been very stimulating and inspiring. And you move forward, you collaborate, you start new projects, and that I think is going to be absolutely incredible in the new building. And in addition to that, there's all the core facilities and that are going to enable all that science to happen, and it's going to be exciting, very exciting.
That's fantastic. And I think, how much of a difference will it make that we'll be under one roof? Because currently, all of our labs are dotted about in different buildings. Of course, most of the lab-based research will be here, but we'll have this dual hub model. But will it make a difference actually just being able to see people from?
We'll definitely do. I mean, we are one email away, but it's a lot different when you're in the same place and you can meet and you have the space. To me, is going to be very important.
And Jippy, I wonder if you might want to comment on that from a group leader perspective.
Yes, of course. I think that the Queen Square is a very complex ecosystem. Somebody of us would define it as a jungle, or I would say a large family. I think that this ecosystem is complicated because we are dispersed in many different buildings. But I think that this building will bring it together, will be an element of togetherness to be under the same roof. And why togetherness now is important? Because there is quite a lot of added value that can be really brought in by the collaboration of so many excellence around the square and the UK DRI. And I think that this is the final advantage that this building will bring.
And I wonder if I might open that question to you, Fiona. As you said, you've just recently joined UCL. You've come here from industry. Can you tell us a little bit about what made this such an appealing place for you to come and develop your lab? But also, how do you think the new facilities will facilitate you to recruit and retain the best talent?
That's great. Thanks, Selena. And actually quite an easy question to answer, I think. I'll try and not be long-winded, but I think the main thing about drug discovery is it's a team sport. You know, we are constantly learning from multiple different disciplines and integrating data from lots of different places to get to the point where we have something that works in patients. And when we start a very early program that's coming out of an academic idea, that, you know, the new innovation in the field, we are thinking about what do we want this drug to do when it gets to man? And when we're starting, before we even have a drug at the very beginning, how are we going to design that and move it forward to get to a patient? And if we don't know patients, I think Adrian said it in his opening, if we don't know what our patients need, how can we make the right drug for them? And so having this space where we'll have the opportunity to learn from people living with the disease, but also having people doing the really cutting edge new innovations that are teaching us more about the disease and pathways and the mechanistic parts to look for compounds to do, and then having our Drug Discovery Institute industry standard capabilities, which we have here at UCL, that was set up by my predecessor and the team, to really look for those molecules and find the ones that are going to work, is what is really going to make this a really magical place. And having, you know, I feel, you know, I worked in industry for 15 years, and I spent a lot of time looking at new drugs and working as a team in that space, and, you know, had a magical time. But I think we spend a lot of time in industry actually partnering with experts outside in academia, and we have all this in one place, which is exactly what made me want to come here and, you know, work with all these fabulous people and all of you in the future.
Thank you. And I will come back to talk about the patient services that will be here in the partnership with the hospital in 1 second. But I first wanted to come to Adrian and Jippy. This site has been stimulated in part through the establishment of the DRI and the partnership and the need for this new facility. I wonder if, Adrian, you could speak a little bit about the partnership and why the building is so important for the DRI. And then Jippy, as somebody who is, to me, you're like Superman, you're involved in every bit of this institute. And I wonder if you could, to all of us, yeah, and I wonder if you could reflect a bit on the journey from the conception of this project to actually being here at the topping out today. So Adrian, you've
it's difficult to speak directly before Superman, so I'll keep it short. but I agree. Yeah, so you know, the DRI is 5-6 years old, and as I mentioned before, it's a national institute, and we actually have major labs in Edinburgh, Cardiff, Imperial Kings, and here at UCL. And the reason that UCL is the hub and the headquarters of the DRI nationally is this, as I mentioned, this very bold, long-term commitment that UCL has made to this area. I've said this to a few of my colleagues. How many times in your lifetime can you expect something of this magnitude, of this ambition? You know, 1 or 2, I think, if you're lucky. So it's just phenomenal. And the partnership between the DRI and UCL has been wonderful. I've worked in quite a few different academic institutions over the years. So often it's the case that in the excitement of the of the early days of a partnership where two groups are sort of flirting a bit with each other. They say a lot of nice things to each other, and then things settle down. In UCL's case, they made a commitment to the DRI, and they've not only met the commitment, but they've added to it, and they've built it, and they've, you know, expanded it. So, you know, the DRI, as I said, is incredibly grateful and proud to be partnering with UCL on this. And I won't repeat the points about the building, other than to say, you know, as Michael said, it will, when it opens, be the best neuroscience research, biomedical research facility in the world. That's just phenomenal. That doesn't happen very often.
Thank you, Adrian. Usually I have the role of the villain, but they gave me the role of I have been promoted. I think that I completely agree with Adrian and many other intervention that have been done today. I think that my small contribution to this is about something that Alan Thompson mentioned. This will be a place for education. It will be a place for learning. And in the journey that is a 13 years old journey that brought us to see today the facade of this building, the learning process was just impressive. And we started learning before a single stone was laid to build this building. By visiting all the building, learning from others that have taken the path before, and not reinventing the wheel, but moving forward. And I think that this building will be a building that will host people looking to move forward. And in this regards, I think that I totally agree. This will be the best building in the world to run neuroscience process and solve a neurological problem. But I think that the challenge for all of us will be keeping this building the best building. And this is the reason why I think that at the heart of this building is the fact that it will change. So I remember an intervention, a comment of Adrian very early on in the process that stressed the idea that every room should be ready for reconfiguration and changing from wet lab to dry lab, from dry lab to meeting space, and vice versa. So I think that the heart of the building and the very big contribution of engineering, architects, and the project manager is keeping this a reality. And the reality is down there in every single room. The core facility will be exactly the same. We have about 10 core facility, 9 public facing with a big investment, but those facility will be the starting point. The facility will be reviewed every year. They will, their usefulness will be assessed, and if necessary, we will change. It's a matter of continuing to aspire to the best, I think.
Thank you. And you bring me really nicely onto my next discussion points for the last 10 minutes, which is to really talk about what will be different about this facility. And I think the two things that will set us apart are the core technology platforms that you've just mentioned, but also the integration of the partnership between the hospital and the university. And of course, you know, most of us are based in Queen Square, which has a strong history of this real partnership. But actually, we will have patient services within the new building. And I wonder if I could turn to you now, Fergus, just to talk a little bit about this partnership, why it's so important, and why being co-located in this facility will add strength to both the research and the clinical practice.
Great, thank you, Selina. So, you know, in the current NHS climate, it's easy to become a little bit demotivated and you know, backward looking. But you know, if you create the right environment, it's a highly motivating environment in which to really have very rich and rewarding interactions with our patients and their family and carers. Rarely do clinicians get the opportunity to take advantage of really purpose-built clinic rooms and fantastic technology, which, you know, brings with it, you know, spacious, light, well ventilated, and that's become even more important in the recent pandemic as well. And that really allows patients to attend with mobility aids, their carers, their families. It enables teaching to take place in medical students, junior doctors, international fellows. And that in itself just really creates the sort of brings your best self to that interaction. But more than that, having your whole team around you in the same clinic space is almost as unique really as having new purpose-built facilities. And that again really creates a really multidisciplinary environment that's there. But I think what sets apart Gray's Inn Road from other centres is really that close proximity to our scientific and academic colleagues. And really that does set up a really fantastic opportunity, I think, to promote the research, the translational research that's done here. Very few patients, in fact, are enrolled in the research studies at Queen Square, probably less than 5 or 10%. And this really gives an opportunity to address that and almost consider why isn't this patient in some sort of trial, or having at least the opportunity to take advantage of some of those translational advances. So I think in short, really, it puts the patient firmly at the heart of everything that we do, and creates this highly motivating environment, I think, where, you know, we can really promote translational research and bring treatments, I think, to clinic as early as possible. I think in that way it's progressive, it's supportive, it's caring, and I think it's hopeful. I think that really creates entirely the right ethos and atmosphere for working as a clinician in this building.
Thank you so much. And I think as somebody, our own research really relies on patient samples. We work closely with Natalie, who's in the audience today and was involved in one of the art collaborations that we just saw on the video. And I think, you know, I've always been struck by the enthusiasm that our research participants bring, even though it's certainly in the case of our own research, we know that it won't immediately lead to benefit for them. But I think being exposed to the researchers here, they really kind of appreciate the long-term view, and even if it won't directly benefit them, they realize they want to be part of that journey too. And I wonder if I might just open that question out to the rest of the panel and maybe ask Nicole, as a lab-based researcher, what difference will it make to you that we will be co-located with patients here, in terms of, you know, motivation or facilitating your work? Or
well, I mean, I think you can see from all the progress has been in the last years. For me, for example, for motor neuron disease, has been really inspiring seeing how what we find in the labs can actually move towards therapies, and how that can, you know, really make a difference. And even if the difference is not today, but you can see it in the near or so, you know, future, that it really makes a big difference.
And Adrian, I don't know if you want to comment on that as well. I noticed in the video at the beginning, you said something that I think was really important about how it's for those of us who are non-clinical researchers, it's really possible for us to do our work without ever meeting a patient living with the diseases that we're working on. And in many ways, that's quite wrong, right? And I think for me, sharing an entrance to the building with people who are living with the disease is the perfect way to really keep your mind focused on what the mission of the Institute actually is. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Well, just briefly, yes. I mean, it's true that certainly whilst I was doing my training and I was in the lab, I'd never met the patients that we were essentially serving. And when that started changing and we started paying more attention to this, at least two things happened, at least they did to me. One was the intangible but really important motivation and drive. I mean, scientists tend to be a pretty motivated bunch right from the start, but actually engaging with patients and spending a little time just casually talking to them really sort of turbocharges that, because it stops being a theoretical mission and it becomes a very personal mission. So that's the first thing that changes. And I say that's sort of intangible, and that's the soft side of it. That's just being around the group that you are working for is important. The other side of it is a practical one. It's something you mentioned, Selina. The proximity to a patient population, the patients see the research or get a better appreciation for it. And I think that does provide genuine hope, which is terrific. But they also start thinking about their role in the research, and you start involving them in panels and discussions, and then they start getting interested, and then they're volunteering for trials, and that whole ecosystem is strengthened because of that. So those are two ways that I think are the reasons why it is not an accident that this is happening in this building. It was built into it from day one.
Thank you. And Fiona, if I can turn to you now, I mean, as you outlined at the beginning, you're in the business of drug discovery. How will this co-location help you to get those therapies into patients more quickly?
Yeah, I come back to my famous saying about drug discovery being a team sport. And I think Adrian just highlighted that, and Fergus as well, about the multidisciplinary motivation. Everyone has a different reason to be in the job that they're doing, but actually, you know, every single person in our building is important. People who, you know, people who keep the lights on, keep the engineering going, keep the systems working, the technicians who do all the bench work, the people who go and communicate to the public about what we're doing, about the importance. And I think that motivation is the sort of underdriver. All of us have got, I think, a personal story about someone who's been sick in our families or, you know, ourselves, that we can, you know, realize why there's a need for better treatments in the first place. So, you know, we're kind of, I feel really privileged to be in a field where I've experienced, you know, my grandmother had dementia, my Nana had dementia, and I saw them change over time when I was quite early in my career. In fact, my first job at Merck, I was doing these experiments in the lab in a multidisciplinary team, and my granny was going through her early stages of MCI, where she was buying food for children that had grown up and left home and things. And I was constantly thinking about, you know, the questions we were asking in the lab and how that related to her. And I'm not sure she would have been, you know, happy that I was comparing us to the lab mice, but you know, at the same time, it was a really sort of important thing for me to realize why this was so important. And all of us need hope, right? Even these devastating diseases, when one of our family members is affected, there has been a bleak landscape in a lot of neurodegenerative diseases for too long. And I think this is our moment. You know, we're starting to see happy news about drugs that change the course of disease in Alzheimer's, also in ALS, in other, also better symptomatic treatments. There's multiple ways where we're in a good place now, and with all the emergence of biomarkers and imaging and, you know, in clinical practice, the learnings across different neurodegenerative diseases as well. You know, we've got all of these different neurodegenerative experts in the same building where we can communicate and learn from each other about what's common about certain types of ways cells die in the brain, what's different, what do we need, when do we need to intervene. So I think it's just an amazing time, and that motivation is exactly what we need to get this job done, right? It's a tough job, it's a winding road, but I think that's where we're going.
Thank you. So Sally, are we okay for time? Have we still got 1 minute? I don't want us to miss the topping out because of my bad chairing. I think that would be I think I might get the sack if that happens. Perfect. So I think we're due to cut to the roof in about 2 minutes. So I thought I might just actually finish by asking each of the panel members to say the one thing that they are most excited about this project. Coffee machines, canteens do not count. Has to be something disease orientated. Sorry,
I know, I was like, I just had a lot to say. The most exciting thing I think is the fact we'll run into each other in the building on a regular basis. Like, we do have a really wonderful collaborative environment. I said I'm new to UCL, but I feel like I've been so fortunate. Jippy, Selina, Adrian, others have really sort of helped me to dig in and get to know people very fast after 9 years in the States, in the Boston biotech area. So I'm just excited to be in one building where we can run into people and have a quick chat, because it's surprising where in these really complex areas, sometimes it's the chat over coffee, really. I know you said no coffee, but it's that chat that really, you get a new idea that can turn into something really meaningful. We just had one on Friday, didn't we, about a collaboration between our groups that is going to move something forward that was, you know, needed more resources nothing. So it happens, and that's what I'm excited about. Sorry, that was long. We've not got long. Sorry.
So I think from my perspective, I think the reinvigoration of clinical academic neuroscience at Queen Square, this I think is a real opportunity to highly motivate already well-motivated individuals. But I think the success, I think, will be seeing increased numbers of patients being offered opportunities, I think, for involvement in trials or investigative trials or treatment trials. And I think that is a measure of success I'll be looking for, I think.
Are we? Oh, okay. Sorry if I cut you off.
Absolutely no problem. I think that for me, the key word of the new building is generosity, because I'm always amazed of the generosity that is and the availability that I can discover in my colleagues. The majority of people working at Queen Square and all of you in the audience are really supermen and superwomen that give time, energy, thoughts to a common target. And I think that the new building will focus that generosity and that all that we all need to continue.
And that seems like a great note for us to wrap up the panel. I think you're right. This will be the beginning of a new journey once we're in the new building.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Blowers, and I'm the Chief Executive for ISG. Now, it's my pleasure to welcome you all here today, whether you're here in person or watching us online, to formally recognise this latest project milestone. And I am saying I'm delighted to be here as we top out the building, reaching what is the tallest part of our construction activities. Now, this is an important building and a very important moment for a very important building. The Institute of Neurology and Dementia Research Institute Hub will be a world-leading home for neuroscience right here in London. Getting to this milestone has clearly been a collaborative effort between such a large number of stakeholders, including UCL themselves, Arcadis, ISG of course, and also many of our dedicated supply chain partners. So I wanted to say thank you to all of them. But before we move on, I just wanted to reflect on some of the scale of the achievements we've had with a few statistics. Now, believe it or not, we've saved over 1,000 metre cube of concrete, which importantly has reduced our carbon emissions by over 150 tonnes. Believe it or not, there are 600 piles installed across the site to support this new building, which actually total over 13 kilometres in length. And there's been nearly 800,000 man-hours worked without a reportable incident. I think that safety performance is something everyone here should feel immensely proud of. But similarly, the sustainability credentials of this building, both in construction and in operation, are really exemplars for the future of the built environment. When it comes to sustainability, it's worth noting that as well as really high levels of recycled steel in this building, we've also played a really key focus on repurposing steel from other projects, for over 700 tonnes of steel being used in the temporary works phase to support the structure of this building during construction. Now, it's going to be remiss of me not to thank the great team we have here working, led by Francis Furley, Sean Beecher and Richard Rafe. They have led a team of people who have shown really great commitment and huge passion for this project, so I wanted to say thank you to all of you. But I think everyone should feel immensely proud of what has been achieved here. And let's all hope that UCL one day find a cure for neurological diseases right here in this very building. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today's event.
Building projects are genuinely partnerships, but particularly partnerships between the principal contractor and the client. And they're inevitably fraught. This one has been remarkably smooth. And I think that's a part of because we share deep values. We share deep values around innovation, and we share deep values around the welfare of the people with whom we work. And the impressive health and safety record of ISG on this project is something that we really commend them for, but we're also incredibly grateful for the way that they've listened to the particular needs of the scientific community, listened to the particular needs of the clinical community as we build really what is a very unique, unusual and special facility. So it's been a true partnership between ISG and the university and our other partners, and we're very grateful for that. We're proud too that the topping out today is going to be done by one of our early career researchers, expressing confidence in the fact that this is a facility that for a very long time will be finding solutions to neurological conditions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think it's time to do the thing, isn't it? So
yes, I think you and our guys. Yeah,
this is a high-risk moment.
Yes. Yes. Excellent.
Put some muscle into it.
Make sure it's torqued properly. Well done. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
Not at all. Thank you.